You've been responsible. You've shown up. You've done everything life asked of you. Maybe you've even done it well. But somewhere between the meetings, the messages, the quiet compromises, you stopped asking a simple question: what do I want? Not what's expected, not what's practical, not what keeps everything running smoothly. Just you. That silence inside, that's not peace, that's absence. Because when you're not your own priority, your life starts belonging to everyone else. You move through your days like a background process, always on, always reliable, rarely present. But here's what changes everything. You can reset. Not by running away, not by quitting everything, but by returning to yourself. Today, we're going to cut through the noise. We'll explore how to focus on yourself without guilt, build discipline without burnout, and set boundaries that protect your peace, not your image. This isn't about abandoning your responsibilities. It's about no longer abandoning yourself. With timeless Stoic philosophy and grounded real-life strategies, you'll learn how to stop being an option in your own life and start becoming the center of it again. So, if you're ready for that shift, stick around, subscribe to go deeper, and in the comments tell me, what part of your life have you been giving away too freely? Because starting today, you get to choose you. Let's begin. 1. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. You don't exist to carry the weight of everyone else's expectations. You weren't born to be convenient, agreeable, or endlessly available. And yet, you've been trained to believe that saying yes is kindness and saying no is cold. Prioritizing others is noble, but protecting yourself is selfish. This is where the damage begins. Because the moment you start apologizing for protecting your time, your peace, your mental energy, you hand over control of your life one silent compromise at a time. Saying no is not rejection. It's redirection. It's reminding yourself and others that your attention, your time, and your emotional bandwidth are not infinite resources. You don't owe access to anyone simply because they ask nicely. Every yes you give without thinking costs something. Maybe it's your rest. Maybe it's your focus. Maybe it's your ability to say yes to what actually matters. Either way, the price is real. There's a reason you feel stretched thin. There's a reason you always feel like you're falling behind in your own life while being caught up in everyone else's. It's not just poor time management, it's emotional mismanagement. You've wired your brain to respond to guilt before clarity, to urgency before alignment. So you say yes on reflex, then regret it later. Not because you're weak, but because no one ever taught you that no is a complete sentence. Stoic philosophy doesn't tell you to shut people out. It teaches you to guard what's sacred. Your time is sacred. Your focus is sacred. Your inner peace is sacred. Epictetus said that if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish or selfish by others. That sounds harsh, but it's liberation, because when you stop needing others to understand your boundaries, you finally start respecting them yourself. The truth is, people aren't offended by your no. They're offended by your clarity. They're uncomfortable with someone who doesn't need external validation to make internal decisions. But that's not your problem to solve. You weren't made to be liked by everyone. You were made to live a life that's yours. You don't need to explain yourself every time you draw a line. You don't need long paragraphs to justify why you're not available tonight, why you didn't answer right away, or why you didn't volunteer again. You owe honesty, not access. And that difference matters more than you realize. The more you justify, the more you imply guilt. And once guilt enters the equation, your peace doesn't stand a chance. Clarity will offend the people who benefit from your confusion. Let it. Every boundary you build clears a space where your real life can take root. Every no that comes from self-respect opens the door to a yes that actually moves your life forward. And no, it won't always feel easy, but comfort isn't the goal. Alignment is. The next time guilt creeps in when you say no, pause. Ask yourself, am I betraying someone else or betraying myself? This is what reclaiming your life looks like in practice. Not dramatic changes, just one quiet no at a time. It's learning to pause before responding. It's choosing stillness over noise, solitude over overcommitment, and intention over obligation. It's deciding, without apology, that your energy belongs to you first. And don't mistake softness for weakness. Saying yes to everything doesn't make you kind, it makes you depleted. And a depleted person can't show up fully for anyone, not even themselves. So, if you truly want to serve, to give, to contribute with purpose, then you must protect your ability to do so. And that starts by protecting yourself. Saying no is strength in its quietest form. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't need permission. It simply honors your time and lets the rest fall where it must. Some will misunderstand, some will push back. But the ones who truly value you will respect your limits. The rest were only there for your compliance. The longer you wait to build boundaries, the more resentment builds underneath the surface. And that resentment will eventually erupt through burnout, detachment, or quiet bitterness. Don't wait for that moment to wake up. You can prevent it now. You can learn to disappoint others before you disappoint yourself. You can stop trading your peace for approval. So start small. Start with one no, one pause, one decision that reflects your priorities, not someone else's urgency. You don't need to be aggressive. You just need to be clear. And when you are, you'll realize something powerful, that most of the pressure you feel isn't real. It's a habit, it's a reflex, and it loses its power the moment you choose differently. The strength to say no is already in you. You've just been taught to bury it under guilt. It's time to dig it up, dust it off, and use it as a tool, not to shut the world out, but to bring yourself back in. Every time you say no to something misaligned, you say yes to yourself. And that's where your real power begins. 2. Stop defining your worth by what you do for others. Not everything you give is love, and not every sacrifice means you're valued more. If your sense of worth is tied to how much you do for others, you're not building love. You're building a dependency, one that demands more every time you give, but never truly sees you. Because the truth is harsh. When your identity is based on being useful, you disappear the moment you rest. This belief starts early. We're taught that being good means being helpful, that love is earned through effort, and that the more you give, the more you'll be accepted. But acceptance, rooted in performance, is never real. It vanishes the moment you stop showing up with your hands full. If you need to constantly prove your value, you're not in a relationship, you're in a transaction. Stoic philosophy reminds us to know our nature and to be self-contained. Your value isn't measured by how many needs you meet, how often you say yes, or how selfless you appear. It's measured by your ability to live in alignment with your principles, not other people's preferences. When you define your worth through giving, you create a dangerous cycle. If you stop giving, you stop mattering. That's not love. That's fear disguised as service. The world is full of people who confuse boundaries with rejection and kindness with availability. But you don't owe your life to anyone. You don't have to overextend just to feel seen. True self-worth begins the moment you stop trying to prove yourself. The moment you say, even if I do nothing for you today, I am still worthy of respect. Let's be honest, most of your overgiving isn't coming from abundance. It's coming from fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of being left out, fear that if you stop pouring, the people around you will leave. But anyone who only stays when you're useful is not a person you need to hold on to. And the moment you recognize that, you start breathing differently, because now you're not working for validation. You're choosing presence over performance. This shift doesn't mean you become cold. It means you become whole. You can still help. You can still love. But now you do it from clarity, not compulsion. You give because it's right, not because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. That's the power of detachment. That's the essence of Stoicism. Not numbness, but balance. Not selfishness, but self-respect. You begin to ask, is this truly mine to carry? And if the answer is no, you let it go. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned that your worth doesn't increase by picking up what others dropped. The irony is that when you stop defining your value by what you offer others, you become more powerful in every room you walk into. Because you're no longer desperate for approval. You're no longer waiting to be seen. You are rooted in yourself, and that makes you unshakable. You also begin to experience a different kind of peace, one that doesn't depend on constant movement, one that comes from knowing you can sit still, speak less, do less, and still be whole. That's rare, that's real, and it scares the people who benefit from your overgiving. The world may not applaud your withdrawal. It may not celebrate your silence, but this isn't about the world. This is about you. about stepping out of roles you never agreed to play, about no longer mistaking productivity for purpose or approval for peace. You are not a machine. You are not a caretaker by design. You are a human being, and you deserve to be, even when you're not being useful. That shift begins with one question. If I stopped doing everything for everyone, who would I be? That answer may be uncomfortable, but it's also your truth, and you owe it to yourself to explore it. Because if you don't, you will continue to live a life measured by exhaustion, praised by others but empty within. So start honoring your limits. Start choosing silence over sacrifice when they no longer align. Start allowing others to stand on their own without you being the crutch. Not out of anger, but out of deep, calm self-respect. And when you feel the urge to prove yourself through service, ask, who am I trying to be right now, and why? Most of the time, that voice in your head isn't yours. It's a pattern, a survival mechanism, a belief that's long past its expiration date. You're allowed to let it go. Because the moment you stop tying your worth to your usefulness, something powerful happens. You start becoming yourself again. Not the version who's always available, always smiling, always fixing, but the version who's still, grounded, present, and finally free. 3. Protect your time like it's your future. You don't lose time in years. You lose it in moments. One unnecessary meeting, one mindless scroll, one just 5 minutes at a time. Time isn't just what passes on the clock. It's the raw material of your future. Every goal you postpone, every project you delay, every dream you keep on hold costs you time. And what it takes, it never gives back. That's why protecting your time isn't selfish. It's strategic. It's survival. People often say, I just don't have enough time. But the truth is, most don't lack time. They just don't protect it. And what you don't protect, others will gladly take. Not always with bad intentions. Sometimes it's a friend asking for help, a colleague dropping work on your desk at 6 p.m., a stranger pulling your attention with a notification. But the result is the same. Your time gets stolen and your life gets delayed. Do you think you'll get to it tomorrow? But tomorrow is just another today with the same distractions, unless you decide differently. Time is invisible, so most people don't feel its loss until it becomes too obvious to ignore. That's when you look back and wonder where the last 5 years went. That's when you realize the plan to start that book, that side business, that workout routine never even got off the ground. Not because you weren't ready, but because you were too busy being available. Let's talk about real life. Kwa is a senior student juggling his final semester, part-time work, and pressure from his family to get a stable job after graduation. He says he wants to build a skills in web design, something practical, something that could open freelance opportunities. But every day he says the same thing: I don't have time. Yet when he tracked his days, the truth hit hard. It's 2 hours on YouTube, 30 minutes checking Instagram again and again. Another hour texting, jumping between apps. By the end of the week, over 20 hours were gone. Not in progress, on escape. Now imagine if just 1/3 of that time was spent learning, designing, and improving. In 6 months, he could be earning his first clients. But instead, time leaked through every crack in his routine because he never took control of where it went. This is why the Stoics guarded their time like warriors. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, made time to write, reflect, and think clearly. Because he understood that time not used with purpose is time used against you. If a Roman emperor could protect his space for silence and self-discipline, what excuse do we really have? This isn't about never relaxing. It's about knowing when relaxation becomes avoidance. It's about asking, is this helping me build the life I want, or is it just numbing me from the one I don't? When you start asking better questions, you start making better use of your hours. And no, this doesn't mean you need to be busy every second. It means you need to stop letting the world assign value to your minutes. If you don't actively choose how your time is spent, you'll passively hand it over to people and things that don't deserve it. Start small. Block your focus time. Even 25-minute sessions where you work undisturbed can produce more than 2 hours of distracted effort. Turn your notifications off, not down, off. Most of what's pulling you isn't urgent, it's just loud. Protect your mornings. They're the clearest moments of the day. Don't start them in someone else's world. No messages, no updates, no noise. Just you, your priorities, and your movement toward what matters. Say no more often. Every yes to something that doesn't move your life forward is a no to the thing that could. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every request is your responsibility. Not every distraction is harmless. Some distractions steal months disguised as minutes. And be clear with people. I'm working on something important. I'm not available right now. That sentence will protect more than your schedule. It'll protect your focus, your future, your sanity. People might not like it at first, but that's okay. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be aligned. Because when your time is respected, your energy gets sharper. Your mind gets quieter. Your progress becomes visible. And most importantly, your life begins to reflect your intention, not just your obligations. So before you say yes again, ask, is this worth exchanging a piece of my future for? Because that's what you're doing. Every minute spent on something misaligned is a minute taken from your own growth, your own peace, and your own purpose. Protect it, defend it. Guard it like it's your only currency, because it is. Time is the one investment you can't earn back, no matter how hard you work. And when it's gone, all you'll have is what you built with it, or what you gave it away for. So stop trading your time for things that don't last. Choose what matters. Guard your schedule. Build your life. 4. Take care of yourself first. You can't pour from an empty cup, and pretending otherwise only breaks you faster. You can't offer support, strength, or peace to anyone when your own foundation is crumbling. Yet somehow we've been conditioned to see self-care as an indulgence, as something optional, something selfish. But let me ask you, what happens when the person holding everything together finally falls apart? There's a quiet danger in always being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never complains, never rests, and never says no. Because while you're holding everything for everyone else, you stop checking in with yourself. You start running on autopilot. You normalize fatigue, silence your stress, and mask burnout with a smile, until one day you crash. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly. Through exhaustion that doesn't go away, through irritability that shows up uninvited, through a growing resentment you can't explain. That's the reality for Han, a public school teacher with a heart bigger than her schedule. She showed up for every student, took work home every night, skipped breakfast to save time, ignored headaches, and brushed off fatigue. It wasn't heroism, it was survival on fumes. One morning, she fainted in the middle of class. Her blood sugar had dropped dangerously low. Her body had been warning her for weeks. She just didn't listen, because, like many of us, she thought taking care of herself had to wait until everything else was done. But there's always something else. The list never ends. Self-care isn't about candles or spa days. It's about boundaries. It's about the nourishment of the body, the mind, and the spirit. It's about giving yourself the things you so freely offer others: attention, patience, rest, compassion. And it starts with a radical shift in perspective. Putting yourself first doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sustainable. Stoic philosophy teaches this clearly. You can't control what others expect from you. You can't control how much they take, how often they ask, or how loudly they demand. But you can control what you give, when you give, and how much of yourself you're willing to sacrifice. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In this case, be willing to be misunderstood when you choose yourself. Let them call you selfish. Let them whisper, "You know the truth." Because here's what happens when you prioritize your well-being. Your clarity returns. Your presence deepens. You start responding instead of reacting. You become calm under pressure, not because stress has disappeared, but because you're no longer stretched to your breaking point. And the best part? You're able to give more, not out of obligation, but from overflow. That's the difference between depletion and discipline. One is survival, the other is strength. One leaves you hollow, the other keeps you whole. Taking care of yourself first doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you finally care enough about them to offer your best, not what's left. That's how peace is built. That's how resilience is protected. You don't become stronger by running on empty. You become stronger by filling your own tank first. And it's not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's going to bed at 10 instead of midnight. Sometimes it's a 10-minute meditation before the world wakes up. Sometimes it's saying no to a weekend plan because your body is asking for quiet. These are not luxuries. They are acts of responsibility. Your health, both physical and emotional, is not optional. It is the base layer of everything else. Without it, your work suffers. Your relationships deteriorate, your purpose fades. So stop waiting for someone to rescue you. Stop hoping for a break that never comes. Be the one who creates it. Not someday. Not after you burn out. Now. Because no one else can live your life. No one else can rest for you. No one else pays the price when your body gives out from trying to be everything for everyone. And if that still feels wrong, if the guilt creeps in when you cancel, when you rest, when you pull away, remind yourself of this truth. You are not abandoning anyone by choosing yourself. You are simply showing up in a new way, one that honors both your limits and your worth. Stoicism is not about enduring pain endlessly. It's about knowing which pain is necessary and which is self-inflicted. Pushing past your limits every day isn't strength, it's neglect disguised as nobility. Discipline is noble. Sacrifice has its place, but neither should cost you your health. So take care of yourself first, before the stress piles up, before the resentment grows, before the burnout becomes unmanageable. Protect your energy the same way you protect your loved ones, not because you're fragile, but because you matter. Because when you're whole, you love better, you lead better, you live better. And you remind others through your example that they can choose themselves too. 5. Stop living to please everyone. It's impossible to stay true to yourself while constantly trying to fit into other people's expectations. The more you bend, the more you vanish. The more you seek approval, the more you disconnect from your own truth. And somewhere along the way, you stop living a life that's yours. You start performing one that pleases the crowd. But here's the hard truth. Not everyone will like you. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will agree with your choices, and none of that diminishes your worth, because your value is not based on how many people nod in agreement when you speak. Your value lies in who you are when no one is watching. The person who shows up with integrity, with boundaries, with a clear mind and a focused heart. Trying to please everyone is the fastest way to abandon yourself. You start filtering your words to avoid conflict. You start dressing to be accepted. You smile when you want to scream. You agree when your soul says no. You become what they want, what they need, what makes them feel comfortable. But you lose what makes you real. The Stoics would call this self-betrayal. To them, the highest virtue was living in alignment with your principles, not bending to the opinions of others. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that other people's judgments were none of his business. Their noise didn't change his duty. Their criticism didn't rewrite his values. Because once you start shaping your life around the applause of others, you give them the script. And what happens when they change their minds? What happens when their praise turns into silence, or worse, into blame? You're left with a version of yourself you barely recognize, built entirely on fragile validation. Living to please everyone sounds noble, it sounds kind, but it's a slow, invisible erosion of self. And often, it doesn't even work. People still get disappointed, they still misunderstand, they still demand more. So why keep sacrificing your truth for approval that never lasts? There's nothing stoic about molding yourself to be liked. True strength comes from stillness, knowing who you are even when others don't. It's refusing to chase external validation because you've already built internal clarity. And that clarity creates peace. If you spend your life waiting for others to approve of your every move, you'll never move at all. You'll stay frozen in fear, asking questions like, will they like this? Will they be upset? Will they think I'm selfish? But those questions don't serve you. They only shrink you. And you were not born to be small. You were born to live on purpose. Not just to exist, not just to check boxes, not just to be agreeable, but to move with intention, act with conviction. To lead your life, not rent it out for applause. Every time you hold back your truth to protect someone else's comfort, you trade your inner peace for temporary approval. And that trade is never worth it. Start by recognizing the pattern. Notice when your decisions are shaped more by fear than by values. Pay attention to how often you say yes when your body wants to say no. Watch how you shrink in rooms where your voice deserves to be heard. That awareness is your starting point. From there, practice choosing yourself in small ways. Speak honestly, even if it shakes the room. Hold your ground, even if it creates distance. Rest, even if it disappoints someone. The world doesn't need another version of what's popular. It needs your real presence. When you stop living to please others, you start showing up fully. You bring depth instead of decoration. You bring clarity instead of confusion. And most importantly, you start building a life that's rooted in truth, not in performance. This doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean ignoring feedback or becoming cold. It means standing firm in your values, even when it's inconvenient. It means learning to disappoint others so you can stop betraying yourself. The Stoics never taught us to be passive. They taught us to be grounded. Grounded in discipline. Grounded in purpose. Grounded in the understanding that we cannot control others' thoughts, but we can always choose our response. So the next time you feel that familiar pull to be agreeable, to smooth things over, to nod and smile just to avoid judgment, pause. Ask yourself, am I choosing peace or just avoiding discomfort? Am I staying true or am I folding? Because the cost of constant approval is your authenticity. And your authenticity is the one thing this world cannot replicate. So don't trade it. Don't water it down. Don't lose it just to blend in. Because when the applause fades, only one question will matter. Did you live a life that felt true? Or did you live one that looked good to others? Choose wisely. Choose truth. Choose for yourself. 6. Set boundaries to protect your peace. Peace doesn't just arrive. It's protected. It's earned. And it's defended by the invisible lines you draw. Lines called boundaries. These aren't walls that isolate you from others. They're doors that only open for what strengthens you, not what drains you. And if you don't define where those lines are, someone else will walk all over what matters to you. Setting boundaries isn't about being rude, cold, or detached. It's about choosing what enters your space, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Because without those filters, everything comes through. Every request, every opinion, every expectation, every demand. And soon, your life becomes filled with noise that's not even yours. You answer texts the moment they arrive, not because you want to, but because you feel obligated. You say yes when you're exhausted. You attend events that steal your time and leave you emptier than when you arrived. And then you wonder why you feel resentful, unfocused, and burned out. The Stoics had a clear stance: protect the inner citadel. That means the mind is a fortress. It's sacred ground. Not every voice deserves to echo inside it. Not every request deserves your time. Not every person deserves unlimited access to you. Because when you let everything in, you lose control of the space within. You weren't built to be always available. You weren't designed to be everything for everyone. You were made to choose. That's where your power lies, in choosing what you allow and what you don't. The truth is that most people don't struggle with time management. They struggle with boundary management. They know how to plan, but they don't know how to say, that's not for me. Not right now. I'll get back to you when I'm ready. And that's the hard part. Boundaries come with friction. They disappoint people. They shake the expectations others have placed on you. But they also reveal something important: who respects you enough to honor your space and who only values you when they can use you. There's a reason why some people react negatively when you start protecting your peace. Because they've benefited from your lack of boundaries. They liked the version of you who never said no, who always picked up the phone, who always puts yourself last. But that version of you was never sustainable. It was survival, not self-respect. Think of your boundaries like a budget. You don't give every dollar away just because someone asks. You calculate what's wise, what's possible, and what aligns with your goals. The same applies to your energy. You only have so much each day. If you spend it all trying to please everyone, meet every expectation, and fix every problem that isn't yours, what's left for your own growth, your own peace, your own purpose? If you want to reclaim your mind, start with space. Space from notifications that hijack your attention. Space from people who only come around when they need something. Space from habits that leave you mentally cluttered. Create sacred hours when you're unreachable. Moments in your day that belong to no one but you. You don't owe anyone constant access. You owe yourself time to breathe, to reflect, to build. Boundary setting isn't a one-time act. It's a daily discipline. It's in the small moments, the pause before replying to a message, the deliberate choice to ignore the drama, the quiet decision to spend your Saturday alone because your soul needs silence more than stimulation. It's in teaching others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And here's what's powerful. When you set boundaries, you don't just protect yourself. You teach others how to do the same. You show that it's okay to disconnect, to prioritize inner peace, to choose silence over noise. You become a model of self-respect in a world addicted to overexposure. If someone gets angry because you said no, it means your yes was never respected. It was expected. That's not love. That's control. It ends the moment you stop performing and start protecting. You can still be kind and have boundaries. You can still be supportive without being self-sacrificing. You can still give, but only from a place of fullness, not depletion. The Stoics weren't emotionless, they were focused. They believed in presence, not people-pleasing. In clarity, not chaos. Clarity begins the moment you draw the line, so draw it. And don't apologize. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Your time is not public property. Your energy is not a donation box for anyone who asks. You are allowed to say, no, not now. You are allowed to say, I need space. You are allowed to walk away from anything that costs your peace more than it's worth. The truth is, boundaries aren't selfish. They're strategic. They're what separate people who live in survival mode from those who live with strength and purpose. Because when you protect your peace, you protect your power. And no one can take that from you unless you hand it over. So the next time you feel guilty for saying no, remember this. Every yes you give away carelessly is a no to yourself. Make sure the trade is worth it. Most of the time, it's not. 7. Take control of your own life. Every day you wake up and follow a routine that looks like control. You answer emails, attend meetings, and take care of your responsibilities. But beneath all the structure, there's something missing. Your own authority over your life. Because when you pause long enough to ask, am I choosing this or just complying? The silence that follows is your answer. You don't need chaos to lose control. All it takes is routine without intention. You drift slowly and quietly until the life you live no longer feels like your own. The truth is uncomfortable but necessary. If you don't take the wheel, someone else will. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's society's voice telling you what a good life should look like. And little by little, without protest, you give them the steering wheel. One compromise, one postponement, one small silence at a time. You tell yourself you're being responsible, that you're doing what's best. But deep down, you know you've been moving through life in reaction mode. You respond to messages faster than your own thoughts. You say yes to things that don't align. You stay in patterns that no longer serve you, not because you want to, but because you haven't decided what you want. That's not control. That's survival. And survival without direction eventually leads to emptiness. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that each of us is responsible for our own soul, not our image, not our reputation, not even the opinions others form around us, just our own soul. And what he meant is this: you are the only one who can decide what you give your time, your energy, your focus to. No one can steal your life, but you can give it away, piece by piece, in the name of approval and obligation. There's a man I met years ago. Let's call him Dan. IT engineer, mid-30s, dependable, disciplined, always there when the office needed a fire put out. On paper, he was successful, stable income, a reliable reputation, and even a few investment plans lined up. But Dan had a secret. 10 years ago, he had dreamed of opening a quiet little bookstore cafe in the town where he grew up. He'd tell himself he just needed a few more years to save up, stabilize, and make sure the timing was right. The timing never came. One day he said to me, "I've postponed my dreams so long it doesn't even feel like mine anymore." He hadn't failed because he lacked talent. He'd failed because he never gave himself permission to act. He didn't lack time, he gave it away. Not to bad people, not to meaningless things, but to everything except his own vision. That's what happens when you let life steer itself. Control doesn't come from having a perfect plan. It comes from having clarity and the courage to protect it. It means no longer outsourcing your direction to people who don't carry your dreams. It means stepping back from the chaos long enough to ask yourself what actually matters and being ruthless with anything that doesn't. You take back control through the smallest decisions: how you spend your mornings, what you say yes to, and what you stop apologizing for. The control isn't loud. It's quiet. It's built in the discipline of choosing your focus instead of reacting to distractions, in the strength to pause before committing, in the courage to say, "This isn't for me," and that's enough reason to walk away. Stoic philosophy isn't about being passive. It's about becoming immovable in the face of noise. It teaches you that external chaos doesn't define internal order unless you let it. That peace is possible, even in a busy life, when your choices reflect your values. So if your schedule is full but your soul is silent, it's time to stop and ask, who's in charge here? Because if it's not you, you already know what's wrong. Taking control doesn't mean becoming selfish. It means becoming self-led. You can still support others, still meet obligations, and still show up. But you do it from a place of alignment, not exhaustion. From choice, not compliance. That's the difference between living a life you manage and one you truly own. There will always be opinions, demands, emergencies, and expectations, but none of them should ever be louder than your own clarity. Because the life you're building, minute by minute, habit by habit, is either taking you somewhere you chose or somewhere you tolerated. You are not a passenger here. Grab the wheel, decide the direction, and don't hand it off again, not even for convenience. Because no one can live your life for you, and no one will care about your peace as much as you do. It starts now, one conscious choice at a time. 8. Focus on your goals every single day. Success is not a lucky break. It's not lightning striking at the perfect moment. It's the quiet decision you make again and again to stay focused. And that focus isn't loud. It doesn't look impressive. It looks like saying no to what's easy and yes to what moves you forward, even when no one's watching. Most people aren't failing because they lack ambition. They're failing because they keep pausing. They stop and start, get excited and distracted, chase a goal, then forget it. But your life will not change because of one massive push. It changes through repetition, through showing up daily for what you say you want, especially on the days you don't feel like it. We live in a world that idolizes intensity. Hustle hard, go big or go home. But the Stoics didn't preach explosive effort. They preached consistency. They believed in planting one seed every day, not waiting for perfect weather. Because if you only move when motivation is high, you'll barely move at all. Discipline means showing up, whether you're inspired or not. And progress comes not from working harder, but from refusing to be pulled off course. So here's the truth. If you want to change your life, pick one goal and protect it. Not just in your schedule, but in your thoughts. Stop entertaining doubts. Stop explaining your dreams to people who don't care. Stop letting distractions rent space in your mind. Every time you shift your attention, you pay a price. And when you shift often enough, you forget what you were building in the first place. Focus isn't just what you look at, it's what you refuse to look away from. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be relentless. You need to sit down each day and ask yourself one thing. What action today moves me 1 inch closer to my goal? Not 1 mile. 1 inch. That's how real growth begins. Quietly, steadily, without applause. If you're serious about your goals, build a structure around them. Wake up and start your day with intention, not reaction. Don't touch your phone. Don't scroll your feed. That's how your focus gets stolen before you've even begun. Instead, train your mind to lock in. Give yourself 1 hour, just one, every day, devoted fully to your mission. Not half work, not multitasking. 1 hour of undivided effort. You'll be shocked at how much your life begins to shift. You don't need more time. You need less distraction, less comparison, less waiting for the right moment. That moment is now. Always now. Every day you delay is a day you teach your mind that your goals don't matter. And the more you teach that, the easier it gets to quit. The Stoics knew that attention is life. Whatever you feed your mind will shape your future. Feed it clarity, and it will create direction. Feed it a distraction, and it will create chaos. The question is, what are you feeding it today? And no, this isn't about being obsessed. It's about being committed. There's a difference. Obsession burns out. Commitment builds momentum. You don't need to sprint, you need to keep walking. Because when you show up day after day, even with small steps, something powerful happens. You become the kind of person who finishes what you start. That's how your confidence grows. Not from wishing, but from watching yourself follow through. From seeing a goal move from thought to reality. And every time you complete what you once put off, you send a message to your own mind. I can be trusted. I show up. I don't abandon myself. So yes, stay focused on your goals every single day. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's how you take control of your life. It's how you stop reacting and start creating. It's how you build a future that reflects who you truly are, not what others expect. And when the noise gets loud, when people doubt you, when excuses feel comfortable, when laziness starts whispering, come back to your reason. Why did you begin? What will your life look like if you stay this consistent for 6 months, a year? How much closer could you be? Your focus is the most valuable thing you own. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. The world will keep pulling you away from yourself, but every time you choose to return, every time you sit back down and get to work, you win a battle that most people never fight. So, pick up the brick, lay it today, come back tomorrow and lay another. Don't stop because it's slow, don't stop because it's quiet, keep building. Because one day, what seemed like small progress will become a strong, unshakable foundation. And it all begins with one choice: to focus, today, tomorrow, and every single day after. At the end of the day, no one else can walk this path for you. Your peace, your discipline, your growth, these are not things that can be outsourced. You either choose to own your life, or you allow others to dictate it for you. The Stoics taught us that control begins within. And when you begin placing your focus on what truly matters, your time, your energy, your emotional clarity, you no longer move through life on autopilot. You begin to live deliberately. Throughout this journey, we've broken down what it means to prioritize yourself, not in selfishness, but in strength. We've explored the courage it takes to say no without guilt, to set firm boundaries, to stop performing for approval, and to take consistent action toward your own goals, no matter how small. And more than anything, we've reminded ourselves that mental discipline and emotional control are the foundations of a life well lived. But understanding isn't enough. It must be practiced. You don't need to get it perfect, you need to get it going. Start with one shift each day. Say no to something that drains you. Say yes to something that builds you. Protect your mind. Focus your time. Choose yourself. Not just once, but again and again, because your future will be shaped by what you consistently choose to honor. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of today's message resonated the most? What habits are you ready to change? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share your story, your challenges, your wins. Let's build a space where focus, self-discipline, and inner strength are not just ideals, but daily habits we live by. Be your own priority, every single day.